Hello everyone and welcome to a review of Kapow by Wise Wizard Games. This is a game where you're going to be rolling tons of dice as either a hero or a villain. You're going to be upgrading some of those dice, not by just swapping them in and out. No, some of them you'll be adding the faces to. Well, let's touch on how roughly the game plays, and then I'll give you my thoughts and feelings on it, and just know it was provided to me for the review. So the game starts with you either playing as the hero or the villain, one player against the other. Now, that doesn't matter too much because those boards are, well, the same, but it does mean that your character that you're going to play as, because there's 3 villains and 3 heroes included in the box, well, that's going to differ a little bit. Those characters give you your starting health, your starting trait dice, as well as what faces you're going to be adding to your action dice. These black dice that don't start with any faces on, and you're going to add them on as you power up throughout the game. A lot of a round is done simultaneously, as you're going to be rolling all of your dice and assigning them on your player board behind a screen. Now mostly you're not going to be telling your opponent what you're assigning to until you reveal and lift the screen up. However, there are a few immediate things, such as maybe re-rolling a dice, that you would need to assign something to, and you do need to let your opponent know you've done that. It's just sort of useful information to them. Once you've done that, you've assigned all your dice, that's when you're going to go into a combat round, and then there's sort of like clean-up phases and stuff like that. So how does the combat work? Well, you're going to assign dice, and you can assign them however you like, but you might assign, you probably will at some point, to attacking, maybe some to defense, and then maybe power-ups, which we'll come to in a minute. The attacking is done in 3 phases, as is the defense. You've got your basic one, and you must do one of those basic attacks or basic defense to really do the rest of them. The next box down is kickers. It could be an attack or a defense kicker, depending on the column you're putting it in, and that's going to allow you to add to your basic whatever. So let's say you've gone for a base attack of 3, but you've got a +2 kicker. Well, you're doing 5 attack. Let's scoot over to see what your opponent's done in their defense, and they have gone for 5 defense. And that's all they've gone for. But you've managed to match it, and if maybe they'd gone 3 defense, it would have been that 5 attack versus a 3 defense that have taken 2 damage and spun their health dial down a little bit. And there's many different ways you can manipulate that. There's even the 3rd box down on the attack and defense, which are multipliers. Yes, multipliers. So your attacks can get huge. Like, you can seriously start with, like, say 20, 25 health, that sort of ballpark. You can do like 12 damage in a turn, not necessarily easily, but by the end of the game you could be doing that if you go all out on attack. So one player in turn order attacks while the other's defending, and then it swaps around, and then who is that sort of person that attacks first is then going to be in the next round based on whoever had the highest defense. So say one player didn't defend, the other one had a defense of 1, well, that's enough. They're going to be the first player to attack in the next round. Then it's going to be time for your power-ups once both players have attacked. This is done in turn order just because there's a limited pool of stuff in the middle, but that's where you've assigned some dice, so you're going to get a new trait dice from the middle, or maybe some new faces for your action dice, so it's not going to be blank anymore. And that's going to be, hopefully, better for you as you're rolling it. Now, some of the defending options also give like faces and stuff like that, but mostly you're going to be gaining those from that power-up phase. There's even an after power-up phase that, if you've spent a dice there, might inflict damage or even gain you a dice based on what your opponent has done. So it's like maybe a bit of a gamble, a bit of a guess at what you think they're going to be doing this round. And that's basically how the game goes until one player is taken out and has 0 health. You're going to be rolling your dice, assigning them, doing an attack, defending an attack, and then powering up a little bit for the next round. You're going to re-roll all those dice and go again. Now you know how to play the game, let's go through some pros and cons of the game itself. Let's start with the production quality. I think it's really cool that the fighters, like these characters, these villains and heroes, have been brought to life by some quite cool artwork, and actually a lot of the game feels like a comic-y sort of thing, the way you're unfolding a board and it's got comic references on it and different things like that. I really like sort of that comic book hero, comic book villain vibe that they've gone for. It really fits the fight that the two players are having. Now, there are some issues, I think, with the production quality, although they don't really necessarily impact the gameplay. The actual dice themselves are really nice. Those trait dice, they're all great colours that you're rolling. You can see from your screen, oh, this type of dice has these faces on it. So when you're getting a new one, oh, I want one with more fists on it. The red dice is going to be the one for me. And stuff like that. That's really, really good. Those screens are big enough that they're going to be blocking a whole lot of your board so your opponent's not able to see. But your board itself is really word heavy, and it looks a lot more complicated a game as a result. In reality, for your attacks, for instance, you're going to hopefully do an attack, maybe do a kicker, or maybe a couple of them, and then one of the multiplier options. But it's just very wordy on those and some of the other elements. It needs to be when you're learning the game, but it does feel like when you look at the board initially, you're like, wow, that's a lot of terms, lots of stuff for me to learn. And it's a lot simpler than it looks initially. So I think that's an issue with the production quality in terms of it makes you maybe scared that it's going to be a lot to learn, even though it's very simple when you actually get playing. So I'd put that as a production issue, even though it doesn't really affect things. You know, the words are there, makes it quite helpful to when you're playing for that first time. But it does look very wordy when you look at the board. The game does have like a tutorial game for you, where you're not playing as one of the special heroes or villains, and you're just playing with an identical board each, effectively. You start with a bit less health. I think you start at bang on 20 rather than a little bit above that. You also start with like one of each trait dice, as well as an action dice with a wild face on it. So it's a lot quicker, that first game, because it means you're getting into it, you've got a loaded dice rather than maybe taking a turn to gain the dice that you want or the ones that you're missing. You've got a dice of each type already, and then you're just rolling and going, and that really is a nice quick tutorial game. Now, once you've played it once, you're probably not going to want to bother with that again. You'll always want those heroes or villains in there because they give you a special power, and I really like those, but I've got to recommend the first time you play, do go for that tutorial game. It's very quick and, well, it gets you kapowing straight away. Now, while I do think visually the game does bring that sort of fight of a hero and villain to life, I don't think that theme comes across as like, I'm a hero trying to save the city, or I'm the villain and I'm trying to destroy the city, because, well, it feels very much just like a fight, a one-on-one fight between that hero and villain. Now, it captures that part really well, but it doesn't really feel like it's part of maybe a bigger plot. No, you're just trying to take the hero out, and the hero's trying to take you out. Now, I think it's great for that sort of one-on-one fight, and it brings that to life, but it doesn't necessarily make them feel like a hero or a villain. It's just they're different characters that are sort of doing the fight. And that fight is going to be massively driven by the dice. If you're not a dice fan, actually, it's not bad, because you've got a few different ways to mitigate things. First of all, you're going to be gaining more dice. More dice means you've got more chances for the symbols that you want, and unlike, say, Marvel Dice Throne or just normal Dice Throne, you're not going for like a Yahtzee thing. You're not trying to get a run or all of the dice be the same symbol. It's much more of a roll the dice and now assign them. Maybe re-roll over here, so you can re-roll this blank one. But even blank faces, there's many spaces which just say any dice. That's including like your action dice when you've rolled it onto a blank side. That's really cool, and it means you're often, rather than going for like a special combination of dice, often you've rolled them and then you're trying to work out, how do I assign these? Do I want to assign a load to attack? Should I defend this round? Maybe I just defend so I'm not taking much damage, and then power up and I'm stronger for next time. And I really do love the little after power up phase. It feels super cheeky, where it's like you put a dice there, it might not do anything unless your opponent has done that thing. So one of them is you deal 3 damage to them for each dice that they got, or 1 damage for each dice face that they got to add on to their action dice. And it's like, if they don't do that, it was a wasted dice. If they do that, it's like you've caught them out at that, and it just feels cheeky, and I really like that sort of one. And there's some good choices. Are you attacking? Are you defending? Are you splitting between them? Are you powering up? How are you powering up? Is it in terms of the faces for your action dice, or just more trait dice? And it comes back to that thing of dice, dice, dice. There's loads of them, so you're going to be mitigating your luck, and giving yourself chances for rolling certain symbols and all that sort of goodness. Certainly when it comes to the action dice. And a quick thing to add, it's actually really easy to get like the dice faces on and off of the action dice, which is kind of important, as throughout the game you can sort of take them off and add them, swap them and all that sort of stuff. And that's really easy. There's some like little tools included in the game that just help you pop those faces off. Now, one thing that is included that I haven't tried out is a solo game mode. That's not really for me, certainly when it comes to like a fighting game like this. It's all about taking on an opponent. And it does mean that on the back side of the characters, the boards, there are solo characters for like how they do it. I wish that there would have been sort of on the reverse of those, different characters. That would have meant there would be 6 heroes and 6 villains. Well, there is variety with those, like the 6 that are included. That would have been doubled to 12, and you'd have a load more variety straight in the box. I think that would be something that would have just taken the game to just a touch up to the next level. So overall, Kapow has been a really fun dice-based sort of combat game where you really are feeling like you upgrade and sort of power up throughout the game because you're getting more dice, better dice faces, or just more dice faces. You're able to roll more, do bigger hits, do bigger defenses, and try and utilise your character's abilities to the best that they can do. Yeah, there's a few niggles. I wish there were some more characters, and the board really does look word heavy. But actually, it's a really quite quick and easy game to pick up and play. And within 20 minutes, you'll have done the tutorial and you'll be going, let's pick some heroes and villains and go for it properly. So yeah, really have enjoyed this one. I think for me, it sits above like a dice throne because instead of Yahtzee-like dice, it's all about here's your dice rolled, now sort of put them out and assign them. I like that system a little bit more. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below if you've played Kapow. Have you enjoyed it like I have? Well, hopefully you have. And until next time, have a great Kapowy day gaming.